How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my signature team once again in the Open Great League. And man, this team, guys, is just so good. I know I've said this before. If you are new to the channel, you may not have seen this team. I have featured it a handful of times on my channel in the past few months. I do use it every season to gain ELO, and this season has been no exception. I started using it around 2350, and if you take a look at my ELO there underneath my face, I'm sitting at 2849 right now over the course of probably about 5 days. So roughly, I'd say probably 150 battles I played with this team, and every single day I gained ELO. I did not have a single negative day of battles with this team, and that is honestly pretty surprising when you take a look at how stale the current meta is. The meta is really just 5 Mons or so, maybe 5 to 10 Mons, really knocked out Lanturn, Medicham, Trevenant, just the same old things on every single team. And this team, despite actually being kind of spicy, really, if somebody would have told me that Defense Deoxys was going to be a spice pick, like in Season 3 or 4, I would have laughed in their face. But in 150 battles, I saw probably 1 or 2 Defense Deoxys on the opposing teams, maybe 1 Diggersby and 1 double. Like, just nobody out there is running any variety. It's crazy. So the team is really kind of spicy, actually, and it is very, very strong. It does function like an ABB style team. The Defense Deoxys is going to be pretty weak to Ghost on the lead, so we have very strong answers to Ghost in the back. And then the back line is going to be really weak to fighting, specifically Medicham, because it's really the only fighter you're going to be seeing. And the Defense Deoxys does win all even shielding scenarios against the Medicham. So the team does function as well better if you can read the team correctly. Because again, the teams that you're going to see out there are very, very standard. There's just not a lot of variety. And if you can predict your opponent's line, it will help you win games with this team. So what I'm going to actually be doing is showing you guys primarily lost and neutral leads, because the positive leads that you see with this team are going to be typically Bastiodon and Medicham leads, and this team very comfortably handles both of those leads in almost every team comp that you're going to see. So I'm not going to be showing you guys any hard lead wins. We're going to just start right into it with some terrible leads, and I will actually divide this into chapters as well. It's going to be a little bit longer, so if you want to just jump through the video and check out the different leads that we encounter, I encourage you guys to do that. So before this gets any longer, let's just get right into the battles. And again, as always, I'm apologizing in advance because I do think I have like a cold or something, so this sniffling is going to be even better than normal. So let's get into the battles here. And a Trevenant lead at the beginning. So one of the really 2 bad leads that you're going to see with this team, the other one being Sableye, and the double is the safe swap of our team. So we will bring this in here. The opponent is actually going to stay in initially. They don't have a good response to a double, obviously, and as usual, this normally happens. The opponent does catch the payback. I know that this is a possibility, but I still just want to get it off right away, and they actually catch it onto a G-fisk, which really, G-fisk is not the best answer to double. As you see, we do grab a shield, and I know that with this big of a health disadvantage, I'm not going to be taking switch here, so I'm going to just have to settle for the shield advantage. The opponent actually baits as well, which in my opinion is a bit of a mistake on their part, so they're going to be forced to dump another Rock Slide right away, so that's fine. We're going to bring back in the DD, and there's really no reason for me to throw energy here or use a shield, because we already know that Trevenant's on the lead. Not really a good situation for our DD, so we just farm all the way down. But the nice thing is we do nearly have 2 Psycho Boosts, and this Psycho Boost actually will do a nice amount of damage on the Trev. So we throw it, we dip into our Diggersby, and the Trevenant is now in a range where 1 Fire Punch will very comfortably take it out. And as you see there, Seed Bombs just do absolutely nothing to Diggersby, and the opponent has a Lanturn in the back. So the way this team works, like I said, it's an ABB style team. The DD is going to be covering our basically Medicham weakness in the back, and the double typically draws out their best answer to a Diggersby, and that typically will set up Diggersby for the sweep in the endgame. Because as you see, the Diggersby very comfortably beats Lanturn and Trevenant, and up a shield, Diggersby is just going to sweep this game. We leave that Lanturn matchup there, going straight Earthquake, with 2 fire punches loaded in. The opponent just knew it was over there, so they just let that go. And despite the bad lead, that is a GG in game 1. So game 2, this is probably the worst lead that you guys will see with this team of Sableye. And I do see quite a few of them just because, you know, the algorithm is going to give you bad leads when you use this team. So expect to see some Sableyes. And the nice thing about Sableyes is, first of all, they oftentimes don't have a great response to a double safe switch. As you see, they stay in, they take the payback, and then they do go for the return. And I knew I was going to get outpaced here, so I just settled for the body slam here. And honestly, we've now gotten this Sableye so low that even if we wanted to bring back in our DD, we could probably farm down here. So that is actually not what I'm going to do. I'm reading that if they have a Sableye lead, they're probably going to have some sort of steel type in the back to cover their charm weakness on the lead, and as well as their Noctowl weakness on the lead. So probably going to be a Bastion back is what I'm guessing. I know this is just a foul play, so I'm going to tank this and actually just commit to a full farm down with the Diggersby. And unfortunately, the opponent actually does have a Noctowl in the back, so I still am expecting there probably to be a steal in the back, but again, I'm actually reading the team wrong, so my team read is a little off. Usually, Sableyes do have steel types in the back, but this one is actually running a Lanturn Noctowl core in the back, so this is going to be very, very tricky. So we're going to have to use to maneuver around this a little bit. As you see, the opponent, they switched into the Lanturn, and they actually banked a ton of energy. In my opinion, I think the opponent should have thrown a Shadow Ball before dipping out, but they do not do that. And we're going to use that to our advantage. So we know the Noctowl has energy, and we know that our Diggersby really can't do much against the Noctowl. So rather than throwing that Thunderbolt there, I'm going to bank the Thunderbolt on the DD, and now I'm going to aggressively bring back in the Diggersby, and I actually get their last shield, which in my opinion is a mistake. I think the opponent probably should have saved their shield for the Noctowl. And as you see, I actually immediately throw a Fire Punch there on the Lanturn. I knew it wasn't going to KO, but what I wanted to do there was severely misalign our switch clocks, because now our switch clocks are so misaligned that the opponent is not going to know when mine is coming back. So my plan is just to get these Fire Punches off right away on the Noctowl and basically try to make a snipe with the DD, and I do just that. The opponent did not know my switch clock was up. I sniped the Noctowl with the DD, and now this game is just simply over. They do have a lot of energy on the Lanturn, but I can just let this go, save the shield for the Diggersby, and they have to now get to back-to-back surfs, and they don't get there. We farm down, and that's a GG. So my team read a little bit off on that game, but with some energy management and some manipulation of the switch clock, we're able to take the win there. So another Sableye lead again in the next battle, and this is a little bit more common of what you're typically going to see with a Sableye lead. Oftentimes they do have steals in the back, so the Registeel comes in and they just take the payback here. And now that we've landed this payback, Double is actually going to be able to take switch here, which is really crazy when you look at the typing here. A normal typing into a steel typing. Excuse me, guys. I'm in shambles here, as always, so pardon me, but we just go straight payback on the second one. I did think that they may just take the shield advantage there, but they're actually going to fight for switch, and since we landed that payback at the beginning, we're now already at back-to-back body slams, and if they shield, and they do shield, we're already at the second one, and in the 2 shield, Double has just taken switch back from a Registeel. And the nice thing as well is the lock-ons really didn't do too much damage to us, and Double is actually super, super thick. So we're going to tank the Thunderbolt here and then get off a payback onto the Lanturn. So effectively, Double has just taken out a Registeel, gotten both their shields, and done over half of Lanturn's health. They bring back in the Sableye to our DD, and we have a Diggersby to sweep the game, and the opponent surrenders. So that is the raw power of the Double safe swap, guys. So in these next few battles here, we're going to be looking at some Flier leads now. We did see a couple Ghost leads, and now the Flier lead's going to be super common, and really the most common lead you're going to see when it comes to Flyers is going to be Noctowl. Obviously, Noctowl on most teams. So I do play this lead a little bit differently depending on what they do. And as you see, the opponent there actually massively overfarmed past the Shadow Ball, and I actually just make a catch there totally just based on gut feeling there and catch the Shadow Ball into my Double. So if the opponent lets the Thunderbolt go on the lead, I typically do just stay in with the DD, but it is nice to try to safe switch out of there if you can, in case they have a Medicham in the back, but you can't always do that, because if they shield, it does get a little risky, because you could risk the Noctowl switching out and then getting a line to your Diggersby in the endgame, which is really bad. So there, I actually called that the opponent was going to no-shield that second potential body slam, so I pay back the Swampert there, just straight up take it out, double take switch there, and they bring back in the Noctowl, which is perfect. And we get to another body slam, guys. Double is just absolutely insane. We get the second shield from the Noctowl, and so I aggressively just going to bring back in the DD here, because I know I can tank a Shadow Ball here and still Psycho Boost the Noctowl, but they bait. And since they bait, I'm just going to shield the second move and just farm all the way down. And we now are looking really good. We have a ton of energy on the DD. They have a G-fisk. They didn't even know we had the Diggersby in the back, but they still surrender. So GG there. And I'm going to show you guys another Noctowl lead as well, just because they're so dang common. And you will see me play this one a little bit differently, because this time I believe the opponent just goes straight for the Shadow Ball. Yeah, they do just go straight for the movement. This is typically what they do. I do just usually tank it, and then I'm just going to over-farm slightly and go for the Thunderbolt. Again, you could say maybe I should have tried to catch there, but it just really depends. They don't always throw right away. And again, I don't want to switch out and then have a super healthy Noctowl line to my Diggersby in the endgame. So they do end up just taking the zero shield there, which is totally fine. But I'm figuring once this Noctowl is gone, my Diggersby should do pretty well in the back, as long as they don't have a Medicham. If they have a Medicham, we just simply lose. So we're taking the risk there, and they don't have a Medicham. They bring in a Registeel. And as you guys have already seen, Double just does really well against Registeel. This time they actually do shield the payback. I should just get to another one before they get to a Focus Blast. So this is going to do quite a bit of damage, and this will put the Reggie into Earthquake range for our Diggersby. So I'll just be letting this go now, and we're just going to put it on the Diggersby with the shield advantage in the end game. So we bring it in here. They will get to a Focus Blast just before we get to an Earthquake. I actually did contemplate calling this bait here, thinking they might zap, but they do Focus Blast. We shield it. And now we're just going to over-farm massively here and then get rid of this with an Earthquake. I am thinking they're probably going to try to call a Fire Punch here. And they do. We take it out, and there's actually a Shadow Swampert in the back. So this is going to be very, very scary. I am not going to be baiting here. I'm going to full send the EQ. And they no-shield it. So now the opponent has to get to 3 Hydros, because despite the fact that this is a Shadow Swampert, guys, we can still tank a Hydro Cannon. We tank it, and now we're just going to commit to fast moves. They do get to another one, but I believe they are like 1 or 2 short of the third, and we farm down with Mudshot, and that's a GG. So very well played there in that game. The opponent there really had me scared with that Swampert in the endgame, but we managed to clutch it out. And another Flyer lead here is going to be an Altaria this time. So Altaria is not as common as it once was. Really a bad thing for us to see on this team. But as long as we catch it against the DD, it really isn't too bad. Obviously, Altaria is going to be winning all even shielding scenarios, but we can make this a pretty close fight. And my goal really is just to chunk this thing down and get it into a range where Double can double kick it down. So there, since I actually landed the Psycho Boost, I decide to aggressively bring in the Double, because now if our Diggersby gets locked into this thing later on, it's totally fine, because they are in Fire Punch range. So I do preserve a little bit of health on the DD there, and I safe switch into the Double, and we actually lure out a Defense Deoxys. And guys, I think this is probably only maybe one of 2 other DDs I saw in 150 battles, which is absolutely crazy. So there, they called the payback initially, so I was thinking they probably expected me to go straight body slam there. So I actually am able to land the payback, and that is, excuse me guys, absolutely massive there. So we bring in the DD, we do snipe them with 1 counter, and I am expecting them to bring back in the Altaria, but I'm just going to stay in here, and I was hoping to farm down. They do just farm me down, but as expected, with an Altaria lead, there typically is either a Registeel or another very strong anti-Charmer in the back. So they have a Basti in the back, and the opponent's actually staying in here. Not really sure why, but this game is just so over. After getting rid of their DD, our Diggersby is just completely free in the back, and we're just going to destroy this Basti here. This is nothing they can do, because I think they do even have a Sky Attack loaded on the Altaria, but there's just no reason for me to use my shield on this Basti. Now we can just tank this energy for days and just come out of here with nearly a Fire Punch loaded, and we're just going to Fire Punch the Altaria when it comes back in. And yeah, this is just game over. So, despite Flyers being a little bit tricky for this team, typically with Flyer leads, they do have things in back that are weak to our back line. So, we take another very nice win there, and we're moving into the next battle. As you see, we are getting up a little bit higher in ELO as we go, and this, guys, probably my least favorite lead of all of them. Shadow Charizard is just insanely strong. You guys have probably seen some videos by Rise recently with Shadow Charizard, and man, it is just absolutely terrifying to go up against. So the way I like to play this out is I throw a Psycho Boost on CMP here. This is a potential Rock Slide, so I know we will get a shield, and I know that we will outpace them by 1 turn to their next Blast Burn. So I go for another Psycho Boost, and guys, they catch it onto a G-fisk. So absolutely savage read there by the opponent. But this is actually still okay. We farm up, we bank a Psycho Boost, and we have a perfect answer to their G-fisk here. And the nice thing as well is now our Diggersby can avoid this Charizard, because Diggersby just has a terrible Shadow Charizard matchup. So we will throw the Earthquake 1 turn before they get to their second Earthquake. And now we're in a range where they're not going to be able to farm us down. They are going to have to throw the Blast Burn, and they actually choose not to throw it. They actually farm up, and now they're going to have to shield this EQ because Shadow Charizard is very glassy. That Earthquake honestly might have KO'd. So what they do instead of throwing right away is they actually build up to the back-to-back Blast Burns. And now I'm just going to come in with the DD. They are shields down. They're going to be forced to just dump all their energy right away. I'm really hoping I can live this, but Shadow Charizard just hits so hard. They live, or we get KO'd by the Blast Burn. And there I was expecting a catch, but I knew that I would outpace them to the Body Slam. So there, it is very important to note that they did not bank a move. They were 1 wing attack short of the Dragon Claw. So I know this, and what I need to do here is come out of this matchup with a Body Slam loaded, because I think they are just about in Body Slam range. So I'm going to tank the first, I shielded the second, and now we will pay back this what is the name of that thing? I can't even think of the name of that dang grass dinosaur. You can see what happened there, guys. Basically, we had to play that exactly like that, knowing they did not have the move. I was able to double up, pay back the grass, whatever the heck that thing is, and Body Slam the Charizard for the win. So that's the Flyer lead section there, and I believe I do have some other neutral leads coming up for you guys. This one, obviously, a Lanturn, super common lead. When you see a Lanturn on the lead, you do need to be concerned about a potential Noctowl in the back, and you really just do not want to see that against the Diggersby. So the nice thing about the double safe swap is that double safe swap will very often draw out the Noctowl, thinking the opponent will typically think that it's a good matchup for Noctowl, but it's actually really not that good of a matchup for Noctowl. So there, as you see, I shielded the first Thunderbolt, recognizing they were probably not going to bait, took the second one, and then since I was low, I figured they were going to go straight for a Surf. So I do catch the Surf onto the double, and then, as expected, the opponent brings the Noctowl into the double. And guys, double is just so good. Again, this is not a great matchup for Noctowl, because after the double kick setup, 3 Body Slams does KO a Noctowl, and 2 Sky Attacks does not KO a double. So we're still not even in Sky Attack range. And since they're down a shield, do they want to give up their last shield here to preserve Switch? And they do, and since they do, again, we're going to snipe with all that energy we had stored on the DD. We're going to just straight up take the Noctowl out, and now I'm expecting that Diggersby is going to have a lot of play in the end game since the Noctowl is gone. Because I think if they had a fighter like a Medicham in the back, they would have brought it into our double, and they did not. So I'm not expecting a fighter in the back. I'm expecting something that Diggersby can handle. We do get taken out here, but now we're just going to bring in the Diggersby and farm all the way down, and we're going to see what their back mon is. And it's actually an Alolan Ninetales, so not what I was expecting to see, but the Alolan Ninetales has been a little bit more popular now that Rise has put out a few videos with it, but up a shield, this is actually a pretty comfortable matchup for the Diggersby. They are at the back-to-back here, but I did sneak through the Mud Shot, so we will be getting to the Fire Punch here on the CMP tie, so we'll just simply shield, Fire Punch the A9, and then we're going to farm down the Lanturn, and that's going to be a GG. So, again, Lanturn leads, expect the Noctowl in the back, so definitely try to align that to your double if at all possible, and yeah, that's another GG to the opponent there, so. Sorry again, guys. I'm just really having a rough time here, as usual. And I forget what the next lead is here. Oh, this is another very, very common line that you guys are going to see. I'm sure you've seen it yourself. The Shadow Dragonair. And typically this team has a Medicham and a Bastiodon in the back. So with that in mind, we know that we have to preserve some health on this Deoxys to take out this Medicham later on. So what we do, we build up to the CMP tie, we throw the Psycho Boost, which always gets a shield, and then we bring in the double here to draw out that Medicham. So, like clockwork, the Medicham does come into the double, and honestly, despite the type disadvantage here, double can put in a lot of work against Medicham. They actually do commit their last shield on the payback, which is not normally what happens. To be honest, most of the time they just let all the energy go and save the shield, but this time they actually shield the Medicham, which is a little bit scary. We do land a Body Slam, but a very healthy Medicham is a little bit scary for our DD here, because they do have quite a bit of energy here, and I really need to land a Thunderbolt on this thing to get this in range for my Diggersby to take care of it. And fortunately, they actually do elect to try to farm down rather than throwing their next Ice Punch, and this is absolutely perfect. Despite this maybe seeming like a scary situation for the Diggersby, Diggersby is just so absurdly thick that we can just stay in here, shield, farm them all the way down, and now if my team read is correct and they have a Bastion back, this is just game over, because we can one-shot the Dragonair with the Earthquake and basically one-shot the Bastion now with the Earthquake. So they do bring back in the Dragonair. I did wait a turn there before I threw, just in case they tried to catch. They don't catch, and now we have Diggersby into Bastion. My team read was correct, and we sweep the game there with Diggersby, as is intended. So G-fisk lead here, another very common lead. This one is actually a very difficult lead, despite it seeming like a good thing to see, since all three of our Mons do have pretty nice Diggersby matchups, but oftentimes they do have like a Noctowl or a Medicham in the back, so rather than staying in there, actually tank some energy, and then again, I have to bring in the double to potentially lure out the Medicham, and there's the Medicham. So if we just stay in that lead there and let the G-fisk take us out, or play out a very close lead and then say come out with very minimal HP, then the Medicham just sweeps our backline. So we have to safe switch there, and this time we actually land the payback, and they get greedy there, and we get another payback off, and we straight up almost take out a full health Medicham with our double, which is absolutely crazy. And now, since we preserved the DD, we can just come in here and farm down, and now we're going to hope that the Medicham was their best answer to the Diggersby, and fortunately this is the very common G-fisk Medicham Sableye line, and now Diggersby is just going to sweep this backline with ease. We have a ton of energy on the DD, we bank all that energy, and I do expect the opponent to full send the Earthquakes here, just knowing that a Rock Slide bait would be so risky on their part, because Diggersby is just so thick, and we just correctly shield the Earthquake. Again, I'm going to be expecting them to full send the return here since we're down a shield. They do respect my Earthquake. Again, I think that the safer play is just to full send the nukes in these situations against bulky Mons. They do the same thing. They full send the nuke, we shield it, and now all we have to do here is get to 2 Earthquakes. The first one will get the shield likely, second one will nearly KO them, and then we have the Thunderbolt loaded on the DD. So as soon as I saw the Sableye here, guys, I knew this game was over. The opponent is going to play it out, but as you're going to see here, return is just not going to do enough to our very tanky Diggersby. This is a best buddy level 50.5 Diggersby as well, so it's just super thick. And we combo play with the Thunderbolt, and the opponent, as you see, surrenders there before the animation even goes through. So GG there. I believe we do have 2 more battles, and I did save some spicy battles for you guys in the end game. We have a Walrein lead here, which is not super common, but we face the dreaded Frostlass safe switch. So Frostlass, if you guys are noticing here, Frostlass is probably the worst thing you could see on this team. It does very comfortably beat our entire team, and I actually decide to do something a little crazy here. I actually bring in the Diggersby to the Frostlass. I did get a shield there with the DD with the Psycho Boost bait, and despite this being a very bad matchup for the Diggersby, we actually do pretty comfortably tank an Avalanche, and it does not really put us into a range where they can farm us down. So I can get to 2 Fire Punches after shielding the second Avalanche, and this forces their second shield, or I would have taken Switch there. And, excuse me guys, I'm sorry. The reason I bring in the Diggersby there is because I knew it had basically no play against the Walrein. So I sack the Diggersby. I do get their second shield. And now I just bring back in the Defense Deoxys there and Psycho Boost right away. And the reason I did that is because I knew that even though I lost Switch there, my double has a very nice matchup against the Walrein. So it doesn't really matter if the Walrein gets aligned to the DD or the double. And their Abacamon is actually a Dedenne, which is very cool. And now they're gonna... I actually got baited there, which is a little unfortunate. But now, this game is just over, guys, because the Walrein does come back into the double. But, again, double has a very nice matchup here against the Walrein. As you're gonna see, 2 Icicle Spears, even though we're down health, 2 Icicle Spears does not even KO the double. So what I'm gonna do here is just get this Body Slam off after I get to the back-to-back, switch out, bank a Body Slam, and just farm down with the DD. And honestly, I think the Dedenne is probably in Psycho Boost range, so we're probably not even going to need this energy on the double. But yeah, this game is just so over because we're not in play rough range. And yeah, we're just going to over farm slightly, Psycho Boost the Dedenne, and that's a GG. So Frostlass safe switch. Typically, it is better to switch into your double, but there I just knew that Diggersby had no play against the lead, so I elected just to bring it in and get some play, and that's a GG. So next game here, guys, this is the last battle. Very spicy lead here, Chestnut. Chestnut is another one of those mons that is just terrible for this team, because despite this seeming like an okay matchup for the DD, we just really are in an awkward situation because our bait move is Thunderbolt, and if they call it, that's just brutal. So I farm up a ton. I let my counters do as much as I can there, and the opponent brings in another Frostlass, and there I'm just like, I don't even know what to do here. I bank 2 Psycho Boosts, and this time I actually bring in the double here because they are down a shield, so I figured they may not actually shield this payback here, and we'll have to see if they decide to shield it. Do they shield? We one-shot the Frostlass with the payback, and the nice thing here is that if they bring back in the Chestnut, double can still put in a lot of work against the Chestnut here. We're just so insanely spammy. We get to a Body Slam, and this is going to take them very, very low. And now I think we should be able to come in here and farm down with the DD. So I'm hoping that my Diggersby has some play in the back, because we've already seen that 2 of their mons just hard beat the Diggersby. So I'm expecting that they have something in the back that's going to be weak to it. So we'll have to see. I do shield, and they aggressively bring in a Shadow Charizard. So I'm like, oh no, you've got to be kidding. My Diggersby literally has no play against this team. But fortunately, our thick DD gets to a Thunderbolt and a Psycho Boost, and we get their last shield. We do some damage, and now we just have to hope that our Diggersby can close this game out. I do call a bait here, but as you're going to see, that Shadow Blast Burn just does so much damage. And unfortunately, we are going to lose CMP on the Earthquake here, but I think that Chestnut is just outside of range where they're going to be able to get to another move against our Diggersby. So I do undercharge this. It still KOs, unfortunately, but we should be able to farm down here and take a very impressive win in the last game there. So thank you for bearing with me today, guys. I know that my congestion is just as bad as ever, but I hope you guys enjoyed some more battles with my signature 4D Defense Deoxys, Double, and Diggersby team, because as I've said before, this team is just insanely strong, guys. In a very, very stale meta right now, this team does have quite a bit of play. So if you have a Double, I strongly recommend that you guys use this team. Let me know in the comments if you've used it, how it's doing for you. And that being said, thank you all so much for watching. We are now over 500 subscribers. It has just been a really awesome journey for me on YouTube here in the past like 7 months. So thanks again. And if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing, because the more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.